You bought a plant last summer, you watered it, you moved it out of the sun when it looked tired, you checked on it, you worried about it, and by August it was dead anyway. So this year you are going to do it differently. You are going to buy a watering can with a longer spout, or set a reminder on your phone, or finally install that drip system you have been looking up for 3 years. Here's what nobody is going to tell you. The problem is not your watering schedule. The problem is the plants. There is a whole category of perennial plants that genuinely do not want your water, plants that evolved in poor, dry, punishing conditions and learned to thrive without help from anyone, plants that come back every single year, plants that look at a dry summer the same way you look at a Tuesday, with complete indifference. 7 of them, all perennials, all returning every year from the same root system, all capable of surviving drought conditions that would finish almost anything else in your garden. And the one at number 4 stores its own water inside its stems and leaves. It essentially carries its own supply. I will come to it when we get there. Let us start. Plant number 1, yarrow. Picture a dry hillside in the middle of summer. 6 weeks without rain. The grass has gone yellow, everything is baked and still. And there, cutting through the heat, flat-topped clusters of flowers. Yellow, pink, red, white, standing completely upright, not wilting, not struggling, just there. That is yarrow in its natural state, not a garden plant that tolerates drought, a plant that was built for it. Here is what most people do not know about yarrow. It is native to some of the harshest temperate environments on Earth. Roadsides, rocky slopes, thin soil with almost no organic matter, baked by sun for months at a time. That is where yarrow comes from. That is its home. Your garden, by comparison, is a luxury resort. The facts. Yarrow is hardy to USDA zones 3 through 9. That covers the vast majority of North America, the UK, Europe, New Zealand, and most other temperate regions where English speakers garden. It grows in full sun. It wants poor, lean, fast-draining soil. And it needs water almost never, once it has settled into the ground after its first season. 60 to 90 centimeters tall, flat flower heads that stay attractive for weeks. And those seed heads are food for birds right through the winter. One plant doing 4 seasons of work without asking for anything in return. Here is the counterintuitive truth. Rich, heavily composted soil makes yarrow floppy and weak. Fertilize it and it flops over, loses its structure, produces fewer flowers. The plant your garden center is trying to sell you with the bag of premium compost is actively wrong for this plant. Lean soil, full sun, occasional water at most. That is the entire care requirement. The unexpected benefit. Yarrow supports over 100 species of insects. Over 100. The flat flower heads are landing platforms for everything from hoverflies to beetles to solitary bees. Plant yarrow, and your garden becomes part of something bigger than itself. The one care tip: in spring, cut it back to a few centimeters from the ground. New growth will come fast, clean, and more compact than the previous year. One cut. That is it. That is the entire annual maintenance for a plant that produces color for months. Plant number 2, catmint. Most gardens have a lavender problem. Not because lavender is bad, because lavender has very specific demands, and when those demands are not met, it dies quietly over winter while looking fine until it doesn't. The drainage has to be perfect, the soil has to be alkaline, the exposure has to be exactly right. Catmint gives you almost everything lavender gives you, without most of the fuss. The same soft grey-green mound, the same haze of blue-purple flowers through summer, the same attraction for bees, the same Mediterranean look and feel. But catmint is significantly more forgiving, significantly more cold-hardy, and significantly more drought-tolerant once established. Nepeta is hardy to USDA zones 3 through 8. It dies back in cold winters and returns in spring reliably. It grows in full sun to partial shade, which gives it an immediate advantage over lavender, which will not tolerate shade at all. And once its root system is established after the first season, it essentially looks after itself. The counterintuitive truth here is the same as yarrow. Rich soil, too much water, too much kindness, makes catmint loose and sprawling. It produces longer, floppier stems and fewer flowers when life is too easy. Lean conditions, good drainage, minimal watering, and it becomes a tight, dense, productive mound that looks exactly like the pictures in the garden magazine. Stress the plant correctly and it gives you more, not less. The unexpected benefit. Catmint blooms from late spring right through to early autumn, and here's the trick most gardeners do not know. If you cut the whole plant back by about half after the first big flush of flowers in early summer, it will push out a second flush, almost as good as the first. 2 full waves of color from one plant, in one season, with no extra water, no extra feeding, no extra anything. The one care tip. Do not tidy it up too early in spring. Wait until you can see the new green growth appearing at the base. Then cut the old stems back. This protects the plant through late frosts and gives you a cleaner result than cutting at the end of the previous season. If you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe now. YouTube will not keep showing you this channel unless you do. Not slow it down. Stop. Hit subscribe now. It is free. It will always be free. Plant number 3, Echinacea. There is a moment in the middle of a hot, dry July when almost everything in a garden starts to look a little defeated. The annuals are struggling. Anything that needs regular water is yellowing at the edges. The garden is telling you very clearly that it is tired. And then there is Echinacea. Standing at 60 to 90 centimeters, its big purple flower heads lifting toward the sun, completely unconcerned by the heat, completely unbothered by the lack of rain, not just surviving, flowering, actively flowering, while everything else negotiates with the weather. Echinacea is native to the prairies and open woodlands of central North America. It evolved in a climate with hot summers, unpredictable rainfall, and long dry spells. Its root system goes deep. It does not rely on surface moisture the way shallow-rooted annuals do. While the top inch of soil bakes in August sun, the Echinacea root is down where the soil stays cooler, pulling up what moisture remains entirely self-sufficient. Hardy to USDA zones 3 through 9, full sun preferred, tolerates light shade, grows in almost any well-drained soil, genuinely low maintenance after the first year. Here is what most gardeners never think about. Echinacea in winter is not dead. It is dormant, and the seed heads stay on the plant all through the coldest months, hard and structural and brown, catching frost, catching light, providing food for goldfinches and sparrows. The plant is working in every season, even the season when you have completely forgotten about it. The unexpected benefit: Echinacea self-seeds, slowly but reliably. After 2 or 3 seasons, you will find small new plants appearing around the original, free plants. No effort. Just the garden doing what gardens do when you give them plants that belong there. The one care tip: leave the seed heads standing through winter. Do not cut them down in autumn. The birds need them. The structural interest is worth having. Cut everything back in early spring, just before new growth starts. That is the correct moment. Not before. Drop your location in the comments. A garden in Zone 4 Minnesota handles drought completely differently to a garden in coastal Oregon or central Texas. Where you are shapes which of these plants will perform best. Tell me. Plant number 4. Sedum. This is the one I mentioned at the beginning. Sedum stores water inside its own stems, inside its own leaves. The leaves are thick and fleshy for a reason. They are reservoirs. When rainfall disappears for weeks, sedum does not panic. It draws on what it has already saved. It is carrying its own supply. Most plants wilt as a warning. They are telling you they are running out. Sedum does not wilt. It does not signal distress. It simply continues. Upright, structured, slowly building toward its autumn flowering peak, while everything around it starts to look tired. And then in September, when the summer annuals are finished and most gardeners are walking past their beds without looking at them, sedum opens. Flat heads of pink or red flowers, 30 to 40 centimeters wide, dense, full, completely out of place in a garden that has given up on color. The bees that have been struggling to find late-season flowers find this, and they cover it. Hardy to USDA zones 3 through 9, full sun, lean, fast-draining soil, 0 feeding required. Essentially, 0 watering after establishment. The counterintuitive truth: sedum in rich, moist soil becomes floppy. The stems get tall and heavy and fall outward under their own weight, opening up an ugly gap in the center of the plant. This is called the Chelsea chop problem, and the fix is not complicated. Lean soil, full sun, correct drainage. The plant stays tight and upright and does not need staking. Get the conditions right, and it maintains itself. The unexpected benefit: the seed heads that remain after the flowers fade stay attractive right through to winter. First pink, then copper, then a warm russet brown. They look designed, they look intentional. A plant that is decorative in 4 different phases. From the moment the succulent new shoots appear in spring to the last moment the frost takes the seed heads in December. The one care tip: divide the clump every 4 or 5 years in spring, lift it out, pull it apart, replant the younger sections from the outside of the clump. The center gets woody and less productive over time. Fresh divisions give you the best performance, and the divisions you do not replant, give to someone, they will be grateful. Plant number 5, lavender. Let me say something that seems obvious but is not. Most people who kill lavender are overwatering it. Not underwatering. Overwatering lavender comes from the Mediterranean basin. Dry summers, rocky, alkaline, almost nutrient-free soil, long hot days, and barely any rainfall from June through September. That is what lavender is adapted to. That is what it is asking for, and the instinct most gardeners have is to give it exactly the opposite. The watering can comes out, the compost goes on. The rich, moist border planting bed gets filled with the things the gardening magazines recommend, and the lavender rots, slowly from the roots, while looking completely fine on the outside. Until one morning in April when it does not come back. Lavender is hardy to USDA zones 5 through 8. English lavender, angustifolia varieties, are the most cold-hardy: Hidcote, Munstead, Vera. These are the varieties to plant if you're at the colder end of that range. And they genuinely, once established, want almost no water at all through summer. In a dry summer, they are happier than in a wet one. Here is the practical reality: a pot of lavender on a south-facing step, in a terracotta pot with extra grit in the compost, watered twice in June and then left alone through July and August, will outperform lavender planted in rich border soil and watered on a schedule. Every time, without exception, the unexpected benefit. Dried lavender heads last month. Cut a bunch in midsummer when the flowers are just opening. Hang them upside down in a dry room, and 6 months later you have something that still smells like the height of summer. That is an extraordinary thing for a plant to do. The season does not have to end when the garden does. The one care tip: do not cut into old wood. This is the one rule that lavender is serious about. Trim the new growth back after flowering, shaping the plant, but never cut down to the bare woody stems at the base. The plant cannot regenerate from old wood. Respect that limit, and the plant lasts for many years. Ignore it, and you will lose it. Plant number 6, Rudbeckia. Picture late July, the peak of summer. Everything that bloomed in spring is long finished. The garden is green but quiet, and then Rudbeckia opens. Bright gold, yellow rays around a dark brown-black center. Dozens of flowers per plant on stems that hold them up and out, facing the sun. A plant that does not look like it is making an effort. It looks like it was always supposed to be exactly this. Rudbeckia fulgida is hardy to USDA zones 3 through 9. It is native to the meadows and open woodlands of eastern North America, where summer drought is common and the soil is far from luxurious. It spreads gradually by rhizome, forming an ever larger clump that produces more flowers each year. Left alone, one plant becomes a display. A display becomes something your neighbors ask about. Here is what the nursery label does not mention. Rudbeckia tolerates clay soil, not just well-draining, loose, perfect garden soil, actual clay, heavy, compacted, difficult clay that defeats most perennials. If you have a spot in your garden where nothing seems to establish, try Rudbeckia. It has a genuine chance where other plants gave up. The counterintuitive truth: Rudbeckia blooms best when it is slightly uncomfortable. Not enough water, not enough nutrients. The same lean conditions that work for yarrow and catmint work here. The plant channels its energy into flowers rather than into producing large, lush foliage. Comfortable Rudbeckia is green and quiet. Lean, slightly dry Rudbeckia is gold and busy. The unexpected benefit: the seed heads feed birds through winter, goldfinches in particular. Leave the stems standing after the flowers fade, and you're providing something the birds genuinely need in the months when other food sources are scarce. Ornamental and functional at the same time. The one care tip: divide the clump every 3 or 4 years in early spring. The center gets congested and production drops. Fresh divisions from the outside edges go back into the ground with renewed energy, and within a season they are producing as well as the original. And again, the surplus divisions go to someone who will use them. Plant number 7, Agastache. Most people have not heard of this plant, and that is genuinely strange, because Agastache is one of the most extraordinary summer flowering perennials you can put in a dry garden. It blooms from midsummer right through to the first frost. The flower spikes, upright and dense in shades from purple to orange to pink, hold their color for months, not weeks, months. It is commonly known as hyssop, or anise hyssop, or hummingbird mint. The foliage is aromatic when you brush against it. Sweet, slightly anise-scented, completely pleasant, and the flowers attract every pollinator that exists in your area. Bees, butterflies, hoverflies, they find it and they stay. Agastache is hardy to USDA zones 5 through 10. It grows in full sun. It wants well-drained soil on the lean side, and its drought tolerance, once established, is exceptional. The plant roots deeply and pulls moisture from levels that surface-rooted plants cannot access. Here is the thing about a plant that blooms from July to October. In most gardens, there is a color gap. Spring bulbs are done, summer perennials are fading, and then there is this long quiet period before autumn color arrives. Agastache fills that gap, completely fills it. Month after month of upright, colorful, pollinator-rich flowers, needing nothing from you, asking for nothing, just producing. The counterintuitive truth: Agastache can be short-lived in wet, cold winters. This is the one caveat. Not the drought, not the heat. The problem is wet soil in winter, which can rot the crown. The fix is simple. Excellent drainage, a slightly raised position, gritty compost. Get the drainage right and the plant survives and produces for years. The unexpected benefit if you grow a gastache near any other plant that needs pollinating, the pollinators it attracts will work everything nearby. It is a magnet that draws beneficial insects into your garden and keeps them there. The whole garden benefits from one plant. The one care tip, do not cut it back in autumn. Leave the stems standing through winter. They protect the crown from the worst of the cold and wet. Cut everything back in spring when you see new growth starting from the base. That one adjustment makes the difference between a plant that overwinters reliably and one that does not. Let us bring this together. 7 plants, all perennials, all returning from the same root system year after year. All genuinely, not metaphorically, drought-tolerant once established. Yarrow that thrives on neglect and feeds over 100 insect species. Catmint that blooms twice in a season without being asked. Echinacea that stands upright in a dry July while everything else negotiates. Sedum that carries its own water supply and saves its best performance for September. Lavender that actively wants you to stop watering it. Rudbeckia that turns clay soil and zero rainfall into months of gold. And Agastache, a plant most of you had never heard of before today, blooming from midsummer to frost, attracting every pollinator in the area, asking only for good drainage. Here is the truth underneath all of this. Most gardeners are working too hard, not because they are doing it wrong, because they were sold the wrong plants. Plants that need watering, feeding, replacing, plants that reset every season, plants that keep you coming back to the garden center every spring with money and hope and the same result. Drought-tolerant perennials break that pattern, not because they are magic, because they are honest. They tell you what they need, and what they need is almost nothing. Lean soil, sun, room to root, and then they do the rest. These 7 plants will look better in year 3 than they do in year 1. They will look better in year 5 than they did in year 3. The garden does not reset. It compounds, it builds. It gets easier every year, not harder. That is the version of gardening that is actually available to you. You just learned which 7 plants to start with. Subscribe now if you have not already, hit the bell so you do not miss what comes next, and leave a comment below. Tell me 2 things. Which of these 7 you are putting in the ground first? And tell me where in the world you are gardening, because a garden in Zone 3 Canada needs completely different thinking from a garden in Zone 8 Georgia. Zone 5 Minnesota is not Zone 7 Oregon. Where you are matters. Tell me. I read every comment. This is your garden, this is your season. Go plant something.